And joining me now to explain all about the Toxic Crusaders is Mui Koltanov. Mui is a research scientist with the California Department of Toxic Substances, DTSC, and she leads their environmental chemistry lab located in Pasadena, California. Mui manages the environmental testing program for the laboratory, sort of collaborating with other organizations within the California Environmental Protection Agency. And also joining our panel is Andrea Enriquez. Andrea participated for 2 years in the Toxic Crusaders program. We're going to talk to her as well later in the broadcast. We're going to get into all of that. But both of you, Mui and Andrea, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Certainly. Now, Mui, and certainly Andrea as well, this is a very serious situation, and certainly the billion-dollar question, which I'm curious about, I'm sure all our viewers are curious about. There are thousands of consumer products out there, thousands of products that Americans, people all over the world use each and every day. What are the products we should be concerned about? What do you want the public to know, Mui?
The emergent groups of chemicals that we are dealing with is a group of compounds called PFAS, which is per and polyfluoroalkyl substances. And they're pretty much everywhere. They are called forever chemicals. They are found in nonstick frying pan. They are Teflon that are being used. And so if you are wearing a water repellent jacket, presumably there's going to be PFAS. There are some rugs and carpets that are stain resistant that can also contain PFAS. So we have used hundreds of products out there, like even presumably the floss that you're using can contain PFAS. And a lot of the Scotch Guard that you use to spray for repellent purposes also contain PFAS.
If you're in too close a contact with this chemical, or let's say you ingest or inhale this chemical far too often, I mean, what symptoms could you be dealing with? How could this affect you?
There are still a lot of work that is being done on PFAS, and it's actually quite scary that all of us actually have some trace level of PFAS in our blood. So if you are born perhaps prior to, 1920s, where PFAS first began, and if they take a blood sample of you, that may be a sample in which you don't have PFAS. But all of us, because we're using all of these products in our lifetime, we do have trace amount of PFAS in our blood. For a lot of the high levels in which we have seen cases where workers work in manufacturers, they do have birth defects, they do have neurological issues on these chemicals. So with huge exposure, there are developmental effects on us as well as on animals. But right now we're trying to study what is the threshold, because all of our blood contains PFAS to some extent.
And you were going to mention some of the other chemicals and products we should be concerned about as well.
Yes, I think that another emerging chemical is called 6-PPD, which is found in motor vehicle tires. And this is one of a chemical that is being used in the tire industry to prevent tires from breaking down. And what they've discovered is that this chemical, once it's broken down, it converts to a very active form in which it actually killed a lot of coho salmon, and there are a lot more studies are being done to identify other aquatic life that's being affected by that.
Andrea, this is kind of scary. I mean, you've got another 80 years or so to live, and there are a lot of chemicals out there.
Yeah, it's kind of scary to think about it like in the long shot, because I mean, each day there are like new inventions going on, how to try to keep our stuff to last longer. So it's a bit scary to think about it. But when you also think about it, like there's programs like with DTSC and Toxic Crusaders who focus on like teaching the youth on these chemicals and how we can learn more about them, has really helped to ease how scary it is to think about how the future could become.
What is the message you have, not for we adults, but for you and your young generation of students? What's the word you want to get out to them?
My word would be that we shouldn't wait until we probably hit our 20s or 30s to wait to do action. We've been told since we were little that we're the future generation to help out the world. So we should take that message and start taking action as of now.
Speaking of that action that Andrea says we should be taking, what should Californians, what should people throughout the U.S., throughout the world, specifically know about this subject of toxicity and basically how to safeguard ourselves?
I think we need to be informed. I think Toxic Crusader program is one of, a unique program where we do want to inform the public. And so I think for the public and Californians, they need to read about chemicals potentially in the products they're using. There are websites that are being developed that identify toxic chemicals. And there are also websites that are being developed in which they provide alternative, safer products out there. So I think we need to be more conscientious and better consumers in that really purchasing products that are safer and then encouraging manufacturers to reduce these toxic chemicals and provide better alternative chemicals that are used in those products.
Andrea, this is sort of a cliche question, sort of a how can a young person save the world question. Yet with that said, young people really are the future, as you mentioned just a moment ago. How can you, as a young generation, sort of affect change in this field?
I think firstly we should probably educate ourselves or get a bit more knowledge in these toxic chemicals and maybe now look at the ingredients list of the products, or if you know that something's probably resistant to water resistant, make your brain think that's probably it's probably gonna have something toxic that's gonna be affecting us in the future. Otherwise, and from educational, I think we should probably be more active in our community, look at our make observations throughout our community and think what we would like to change about it. I know in my community, I'd probably like to see the streets a bit more cleaner. So as of that, I would probably take as action doing more community cleanup, something like that my generation could do is thinking and then acting upon it.
Why is a program like this so vital for all Californians, let's say, to know about heavy metals and toxic substances and urban pollution? Certainly it's not just vital for Californians to know, really everybody, but give me more of a macro approach, because a lot of people, we all use these consumer products and we're like, well, you got to use about 5 billion pounds of these products in your lifetime to get toxicity or to get ill from them. I'm guessing maybe that's not the case, that maybe everyone should be taking this a bit more seriously, Mui.
I think on certain products, particularly the products that we have identified, that have chemicals that are really toxic to us. And so I think for those, a lot of Californians or Americans are not aware of the products that are using, and they're not aware of the ingredients that are used to produce these products. And I think Toxic Crusader is a venue that DTSC developed to really inform and educate the public. And so this is really important, because if we don't educate the students or the public about these concerns, I think we will not be aware of. So there are thousands of chemicals out there, but there are some that are really harmful, and we're just taking small steps in which to eliminate, and then also provide the public options to decide what products they want to use and what they want to purchase.
Let's talk exactly about what the Toxic Crusader program is. Explain that to our viewers.
Toxic Crusader is, as you said, a K-12 STEM program that exposes students to science in a government setting. The program has actually evolved from a one-day event to a 6-week curriculum, where we collaborate with schools in communities that are impacted by urban pollution. The curriculum includes or focuses on issues that are impacting students, such as exposure to PFAS from carpets and rugs, heavy metals from metal shredder facilities, or hexavalent chromium from chrome plating shops. Through Toxic Crusader, we really hope students will develop critical thinking skills in which to address toxic substances in their communities and in the environment.
This is a serious situation because obviously there are toxic chemicals. They're in so many products, so many consumer products that we use, that we really rely on. Talk more about that, Mui.
Yes, our department is one of the few departments in the state or in the nation actually spearheading. And one of the program is called Safer Consumers Products Program. And we really wanted to research or identify chemicals that are toxic in products. So our department has gone through extensive research identifying chemicals in priority products. And the goal is to encourage and have conversations with manufacturers to phase them out. And so we do follow a 4-step process within the state, which allows us to communicate with the public and the manufacturers of the concerns of these chemicals in these products. And so they have an opportunity to provide input, and then we draft the regulations. And after the regulations being enforced, we do compliance testing to ensure that manufacturers and industries are complying with those regulations.
Yeah, like I said, this is serious stuff. So with that said, how did the project all begin? In other words, whose idea was this to bring the program to the state of California and then to bring the program to students, no less?
DTSC is a member of the Association of Public Health Laboratories, APHL, which is an organization that provides support and resources to local and state public health laboratories. They act as a liaison for the local, state, and federal government. In 2018, APHL asked DTSC to develop a STEM event. They give us the flexibility to develop the content of the event, and they provided the funding. In deciding the activities for the event, we wanted to introduce students to science. We wanted to be hands-on, and we wanted to mimic the work of DTSC. And finally, we also wanted to expose students to professions that they may not be aware of, such as, environmental investigators, scientists, industrial hygienists, and engineers. So when we launched the 2008 event, it was well received, and then our department basically asked us to encourage to continue.
So speaking of students, Andrea, why did you get involved with the program, and how did you get involved with Toxic Crusaders? Take us through that.
So in 2022, during spring, I had a physics teacher, and he was part of the chemistry club at my school. And he had projected this program to me as like a killer thing. And he said that they were going to be collecting samples around like water samples and personal care products, which I found to be interesting, but I wasn't quite sure what like this field was like. But around that same time, around my community, they had destroyed a industrial building, and they let people know that around the building that their pipes were probably contaminated, and that water, they could be like heavy metals. So that kind of like motivated me a bit more to join this program.
What, by the way, is your high school, and what city are you from?
So my high school is Huntington Park Institute of Applied Medicine. It is in Huntington Park, California.
Nice, the pride of Huntington Park. That's a good city. I've been there several times reporting, actually. Tell me more about what the Toxic Crusaders program has taught you. I know that Mui has explained what they're teaching, but I want to know what you're getting out of it personally.
So as Mui mentioned, they did like several Zoom intensive in my biomedical class, and in those Zoom sessions they made sure that we were acknowledged with the instruments that would be using. They explained what gas chromatography and liquid chromatography was. They explained how the instrument works and like the math behind it, which helped us a lot for the day that we would come here in the lab and work with those instruments. They explained to us what we would be looking at, like we were looking at nail polishes and the toxins in there, like PFAS, and the problems with that within that chemical. They mentioned carpets and toluene and nail polish, carpets, and PFAS. They explained the demographic and what are the risk factors. And it made me realize like how much people here in California are at risk because the demographic goes between toddlers in these toddlers at the nail salons or like toddlers playing in carpets to elderly people who are probably passing by a nail salon or at the nail salon or at these carpets.
You talk about nail salons. There's really toxicity everywhere, Andrea, that many people are not aware of. What have you learned about toxicity in some of the day-to-day things that we use?
What I've learned so far is that, there's several ways on how you could get toxicity in yourself. For example, with the nail polish, like I mentioned, you can either get it by biting your nails with the nail polish or like inhaling the toxins. So I guess we could take from that and apply to a real world is like most like cleaning supplies that we tend to use. I know for a fact sometimes I probably use too much, so we should probably have more care for that, like wearing gloves and masks.
This subject is way above my pay grade. I was never the most scientific person, to say the least. And with that said, this has got to be a complicated issue for young people. So why are young people getting involved in this program? Why should young people get involved in the program? Some might say, well, this is more for PhD and grad students in university, yet you're in high school and you're already delving into this.
I think I can speak for myself and multiple kids in my generation. I think with the topic of global warming and climate change has really hit us since a young age. So we're really trying to help out, find ways on how to educate us on the things that we're consuming and how to advocate for others in our community from other generations. So we could probably not stop it because we're a bit too far from that, but try to slow down the climate change that's happening at this moment.
How serious do you think this climate change issue is for Americans and for people living throughout the world?
I think I think we're at a pretty serious matter at this point.
Yes. Getting back to the program, and then we'll talk about climate change with you as well. I was reading about this program. It's amazingly interesting. And through my reading, I didn't read anything where other states throughout the United States are doing this exact type of program. In other words, what I'm saying is this seems really cutting edge, really innovative, really unique. Maybe I'm overstating it. Maybe it's not that unique. I don't know. In your opinion, is this a first of a kind program that the state of California has embarked upon?
Well, I'm not sure if we are one of the first of its kind, but I do think we are unique in that we work very closely with teachers at the schools to develop the curriculum that are of their interests that can be incorporated into their school course flow. So the curriculum addresses a lot of the issues that the students are experiencing. And the curriculum includes 5 weeks of workshops in which we do provide background information and relevant information of the importance and why we want to deal with these contaminants. We addressed regulatory and statutory actions that's been taken by other government entities. And we also want to provide ways for students or the public on how we want to measure these contaminants. So we do introduce analytical procedures and techniques. The lab portion of the curriculum really provides students the opportunity to really dive into the laboratory and perform the testing themselves and learn new lab skills. And the workbook that we developed has problem sets in which we want the students to reflect on what they've learned, interpret results, and draw conclusions such as how do they want to mitigate or reduce and minimize exposure. So with the Toxic Crusaders, we really hope that they will gain experience and knowledge on how government processes address environmental concerns in their communities. And we hope to encourage them to think about science and going into government-related professions.
As a student, Andrea, what was the best part about the program?
The best part would definitely have to be coming here at Toxic Crusaders and working with the lab and dealing with scientists and learning about their instruments and how their day-to-day life looks here in this career.
When you go to university, do you want to get into the science field? Is this something you're going to pursue as you get older?
Yeah, I actually plan to major on biology or biochemistry.
Andrea, final question for you. Obviously, there are a lot of products out there, as I asked Mui earlier. What are the products that are concerning to you that folks, not just your age, but any age, should sort of safeguard themselves against?
Definitely products like hair straighteners and shampoo we should be looking at, especially the ingredients list, because there are toxic chemicals like 1,4-dioxane in these products that we should be keeping an eye out for.
And Mui, with that said, what is your final message for our viewers?
When we think about all these chemicals in these products, it can be a very daunting and scary thing to think about. And we're using a lot of products every day. But I think as consumers of these products, we just have to make wiser decisions. And I think we do have a lot of options that are out there. There are companies that are making safer products for us to use. So I think we need to read and be informed, and also make decisions on it. And it doesn't have to be dramatic. It doesn't have to be completely turning your whole lifestyle around. I think we just have to make smaller steps, and as we move toward recognizing and phasing out these chemicals, I think we'll be in a better place.